Hi guys, so in our last video we talked about what numbers are significant or what numbers matter, especially when it comes to a measurement. So this time we're actually talking about what happens when you have to calculate these numbers together. You'll need your notes and you'll need a calculator as well. So we're going to talk about the rules for addition and subtraction and then the rules for multiplication and division. So for addition and subtraction, go old school. Line up the numbers by the decimal point, just like you would back in elementary school before you even had a calculator. Add it and subtract it just like you normally would. And then the biggest thing here is you want to round to the least number of decimal places. All right, so let's start with this example with step 1. So lining up the numbers by the decimal point. So I have 43.94. Make sure those decimal points are nice and big and bold. And we're going to add that to 129.8. All right, so add them up. So just like you would before, go ahead and put those, actually line up the decimal point a little bit better there. Okay, so we have 173.74, if you can read that. So now we want to, so we've added and subtracted, so we've done that, we've done that. Now we're going to round to the least number of decimal places. So since our decimal places are lined up, we're going to use this line, or can use like an imaginary line, I'll show you actually right here, to line them up. So we can see that the 4 is outside of that line. Let's clear that up for you kiddos. And that's supposed to be a 4. Better. Alright, so the 4 is outside of that line. Just like you would in elementary school, you're still going to round. So you're going to see what this number does to that 7. Doesn't do anything, so we're going to keep it as 173.7. And we have the units of milliliters. And because I'm old and because it's easier, go ahead and box your final answer so that way I know what's in there. So you've lined up the numbers, you've added, subtracted, then you're going to round them to the least number of decimal places. You've included your unit and you've included a box, so you're good to go there. Alright, so now let's go to the second example. 4.28 ATM. ATM just stands for pressure. And we're going to subtract, let's see, minus 1.1. So, I've lined up the numbers, now I'm going to subtract them. So we have 8, 1, and 3. Next, I'm going to round to the least number of decimal places. So I'm going to figure out what that place was right there. And I've done that because there's no number right there. Alright? So now I'm going to see what this 8 does to that 1. It should round it up. So now I should have 3.2 ATM. And box your final answer. Alright, cool. So that's addition and subtraction. Fairly simple. Same thing with multiplication. Simple as well. In this case, you just go ahead and multiply and divide, and then you round to the least number of significant digits. So you have 23.87 multiplied by 3.10. When you put this into your calculator, you should get 73.997. Sometimes you get even longer numbers. We want to round to the least number of significant digits. So let's count up how many sig figs are in each of them. In the 23.87, there's 4 sig figs there. And in the 3.10, there should be 3 sig figs there. So you're going to round to a total of 3 sig figs because it's less than 4. So you have 1, 2, 3 sig figs. I'm going to draw my line right there and see what this 9 does to this number. Again, you're going to round just like you did in elementary school. Well, that bumps it up, which bumps up this, this 3 as well. So now you have 74. Now, if I just left it at 74, how many sig figs would I have? You should see that you only have 2 sig figs, but you want a total of 3. So use that 0 there, showing that you have that number of sig figs. Alright, so we have 74.0. There's no units here, so we're good to go. Alright, let's take a look at the second one. 90.10, and there's a decimal point after that 10. You should see that you have 9 as a number. You shouldn't even have to put this into your calculator, but if you did, it's okay. You probably had a long summer. So let's see how many sig figs are in each of them. 90.0, there's 3 sig figs there, and in the 10, there's 2 sig figs. So again, this digit only has one sig fig. You need to show that there's going to be another significant figure. You're going to put a 0 there. Now think about where you're going to put your decimal point. You obviously wouldn't put it right there because 9 and 90 are two completely different things. So instead I'm going to put it right there, if I can manage that. Alright, so it's 9.0. You still have 2 sig figs in your final answer, and you've boxed your answer. Check for any units. You're good to go. So, sorry about that. Alright, to summarize, when you add or subtract, round least number of decimal places. Make sure you also have the same units too, because you can't add or subtract different units. That's not okay in math. If you multiply or divide, round to the least number of sig figs. And the biggest thing here, hopefully you learned this little lesson, don't get rid of or add decimal places or zeros on a whim. Just don't do it. That's really bad chemistry. Decimal points and zeros definitely do matter. So even if you had, for example, like 90 and a decimal point, make sure that decimal point is big and bold in your number so we know that it's in there and it's significant. Because 90 with a decimal point is different than 90 without a decimal point. Hopefully you guys have a great day. Take care.